here we go. My blog today is kind of really just a conversation on the balance between commercial and artistry, right? Commercialism and artistry. It kind of is what separates a lot of things, right? I think, it kind of separates I wouldn't say successful, but the struggling artists from the working artists, and kind of the really better artists don't really have to deal with it. Okay, I'll say that. Let me just say that. The Princes, the Jimi Hendrix, they don't really have to deal with this particular question. But for a large majority of artists, and that's everybody, because everybody can do art, but for the majority of us people, we have to work hard at our craft to be good. For even the Princes and the Jimi Hendrix, where it seems like whatever they do, like they could fart and it becomes a hit, they still have to work at it, and they still had to work at it to get to the level that they were at, right? So the other thing is that it seems like they never really had focused on selling their music. They never really focused on, oh, people are going to like this, let me do this for people, right? It seemed like, Jimi Hendrix just did whatever the hell came to his mind, and he was free. I mean, he battled the 3-minute song and said, why songs have to be 3 minutes? I feel like this song is 8 minutes. I feel like this song is 5 minutes. If I want to do a 1-minute song, probably never, Jimmy. But if he wants to do a 12-minute song, he was like, yo, I'm doing it. And it just to get this song out of him. And he was able to do that. But for the vast majority of everybody else, they, music-wise, they were confined to 3 minutes, because that's what radio wants to play. They don't want to, they can't play no 12-minute, 8-minute song. They need commercials, they need other things, and rotation and stuff like that is tight. So they got to get a lot of songs in there. So for whatever the reason was, radio is what came up with the limit. Now, why is that important to you? Well, as an artist, and I'm just using music as an example because I'm not a musical artist, I am a literary artist, and I am a filmmaker. So I'm not making music, however, it's artistry. So let me go back to my analogy. So, radio only became important because people wanted to sell their music, and because radio was a really good marketing tool to get everybody listening to your song without having to come see you perform it, which was the prior way. And I'm pretty sure there was artists that was like, forget the damn radio. I'm doing a concert, I'm playing that city, watch how my record sells after I leave that city. And they're very, they're right, and it did, but they were wrong about radio, because radio became so dominant, and I don't even know when it started. I think it was really instantaneously, when radio started being so dominant that, people were paying for their records to play on the radio. And that still goes on to the day. Probably less now because we have streaming sites, and, people are scrambling how to figure out how to get their record heard by people. But, they're doing outrageous things to get that first few listens. You know, it's coming down to the name. It's coming down to outrageous song titles, song messages. You know what I'm saying? But before, it was really just radio, and radio was your means to commercialism. So kind of hip-hop went through its bouts with radio, commercialized. Radio only wants to play certain music, you know what I'm saying? So why are you conforming to radio? Radio was so dominant. Radio was dictating what type of music everybody was listening to. You know, DJs became arrogant. Like, I ain't gonna play your song, you know. Now the club DJs are arrogant too, because that's for recording artists. That is, what do you call it? Another means. You know, dance music still gets broken through DJs and stuff like that. But that's only because radio doesn't play it. Now, if radio decided to play dance music a lot, you know, it would be a different story. So anyway, all that to say, the conversation is not between radio and non-radio. The conversation that I'm having is really between conforming your creativity to commercialized standards, and how do you do that? So yesterday I was in a film workshop. Shout out to Kathleen Dean. Shout out to the Sistrunk Collective, the YMCA. A whole bunch of people put that together yesterday. And I was talking to an artist about, not really talking, I heard the artist make a comment about commercial, or how do you do your art? Like, there was a class of beginner filmmakers, and everybody was giving them information, and I really didn't want to debate anybody, but I kind of motivated me to make this blog. But they were talking about how to live your life as an artist and be free and just write what's in your heart and what you feel, and do that. And I'm down with like all of that, no question. You know what I'm saying? Sheesh, beautiful feeling to just doodle and just go run away with it. However, it's like this is a but that actually neutralizes everything that I just said about artistry, because it's very hard to sell work that the public doesn't like, or the community consumers aren't into. There's got to be some awareness of what the consumers want. It's like you telling jokes for yourself or to make people laugh. Are you singing for people yourself? Or are you singing for people to be entertained? Are you making movies and writing books for yourself, or are you writing books to entertain people? Comedians got it clear. You get up there and you start telling jokes for yourself and not really worrying about people laughing. You're talking over their laughter. You're not following the storylines that they're interested in hearing, and you just going off. And you have this totally different interest than your audience. They're gonna boo you. They're gonna get rid of you. Books and film don't always have that luxury. Same thing with music, yo. You get up there and you're singing some songs people don't really like, they'll boo you. You know, I worked at the Apollo Theater, so that place was notorious for booing, and even other places would throw tomatoes and stuff like that. They ain't throw nothing at you at the Apollo, because it's New York and they don't know who you know, and your family might be in the audience, so it might become a problem. But in other cities, other theaters, they've got rotten eggs, tomatoes, all that. I mean, even if it was real bad at the Apollo, I'm sure they do stuff at you there. But all that's to say, that's artistry, right? Right? You just don't want to draw anything. You don't want to just create anything without some type of an awareness of the commercialized elements of it. So when I do my movies, like now I'm talking about movies now, I'm always thinking of myself as a fan. I don't even know if I know how to think as a free artist, because at the end of the day, I'm thinking about people's entertainment. I'm thinking about my entertainment. Would I buy this? Would I feel it's worth it if I bought it? Would I enjoy it? Would I watch it again? Would I read it again? Would I tell somebody else about it? What is memorable about it? Oh my God. I mean, that's me. And it's commercial. And it totally limits my creativity. But I think there's a better word for it. It guides my creativity. How about that? It doesn't really limit my creativity. I'm a fan too, you know, and I remember getting stuff and going to movies that just was trash. And I'm a creator who creates stuff that I want to see people enjoy. I'm doing this for my enjoyment and other people's enjoyment, and I don't get it twisted. And I think if you keep that in mind, it's not commercial. And if you keep it in mind, it will commercially succeed. And if it needs tweaking, right? You need to grow. You will automatically do it because you have your entertainment and others' entertainment in mind. And I don't think that is necessarily a conflict. I kind of started working in comedy. I took a class at the Uptown Comedy Club, and many of the great urban comedians, just comedians in general, right? New York comedians were in the class with me. I mean, Cool Bubba Ice, Tracy Morgan, J.B. Smoove, Ian Edwards, Will Sylvans. These are people that I took classes with in 1990, 1991, 92. You know what I'm saying? So I think in that direction, you know, I think in that direction where I'm worried about the audience's reaction. I'm a comedian. Comedians' jokes don't work unless there's a reaction from the audience. No comic has a standing ovation. At least I haven't met a comic that has a standing ovation when the crowd had just gone, interesting, or they told a joke, and then he did this, and everybody goes, you know. No, that's not the comedian's goal. The comedian's goal is to get you to laugh. The comedian's goal is to get you to demonstrate your reaction, right? So for me, when I even write horror and it's not to make you laugh, it's still to make you have a reaction. So that is my goal. And whether it is commercial, right? I'm still doing it for a reaction. Now, there may be a downside to commercial side, right? And the downside may be following too much of a trend and writing something or creating something that you're not really motivated about, that you are doing just for other people or just because it's popular. You know, like I don't really like vampires, but you know, vampires are hot right now. Everybody wants to, you know, vampires are selling. You know, I would be very careful with that. I mean, at the end of the day, there's subgenres and there's varieties. So you can, if you like romance, then you can still write a romantic vampire story. It worked for Charlene Harris, and she did True Blood that way. But again, you know, you want to bring something of yourself to whatever it is that you're doing, whether it is purely commercial or not. So that's what I would say. Kind of ending it right here. I hope you understand my position on this. Good good vibing with you, everybody. Peace.